Today in the shop, we are looking at a 2016 F150 with a 2.7 liter EcoBoost engine and a charging system service now message. The charging system service now message comes on a minute or two after startup on this truck. I'm going to start diagnosis by retrieving all the codes on it, and I'm going to be using Forescan Lite today for diagnosis. We have a P0620 generator control circuit code and a P065B generator A control circuit range performance. I'm going to pull up some PIDs on this vehicle to try and get a better idea what's going on with the charging system. This system uses a 3-wire connector on the side of the alternator, and there's a gen command wire from the PCM to the alternator. The PCM tells the alternator what charging voltage it wants. There is a gen mon wire, and that is a signal from the alternator back to the PCM that tells the PCM how hard the alternator is working to achieve that voltage. And the third wire on that connector is a hot all the time circuit that is used by the alternator to reference what the system voltage is. So if we look at our PIDs here, we can see gen command is at 68%. The PCM is sending out a 68% duty cycle to the alternator to tell it what voltage it wants, and in this case, desired voltage is 14.82. And we have absolutely no signal on our gen mon or generator monitor circuit. Now on our 3-wire connector on the side of the alternator, any of those 3 wires being open would produce something similar to this. But what I usually find is a good indication of which circuit has an issue is the system voltage. If our hot all the time reference voltage has an issue, the alternator will usually overcharge because it has no reference of what the system voltage is. If our gen mon circuit has an open, the charging system voltage will usually be normal, we just won't have a signal back on gen mon. And if we have no signal to the alternator on the gen command circuit, the alternator will just default to 13.5 volts and will give you no signal on gen mon, which is what we're seeing here. So based on what we're seeing here, I think we have an open in our gen command circuit between the PCM and the alternator, and it's probably time to go start looking at the wiring on the vehicle. And after a few minutes crawling around on this vehicle, I think we found our problem behind the intercooler tube near the passenger side frame rail. It's kind of hard to see in this lighting, but through the opening in the split loom on the harness, we have that nice greenish white color of corroding copper. I've got the split loom and the electrical tape cut back on this harness, and unfortunately our camera doesn't want to focus real sharp. But that blue wire with the orange tracer is our gen command wire, and we have a suspicious corroded looking spot on it. So I'm going to get a screwdriver behind it and lightly pull on that wire, and it pulled in two. And apparently they had some extra wire when they were making this harness because it actually wraps around 2 or 3 times right here. So I'm going to go ahead and cut about 1 inch out of it, and then we're going to go ahead and solder and heat shrink this back together. With our wiring repair complete, let's go ahead and look at our PIDs one more time and make sure everything's working properly before we tape this all back up and put it back in split loom. We can see here we're now getting a signal on gen mon. Our vehicle power is pretty close to our generator voltage desired. We've still got a continuous signal on gen command rather than just a quick little command every 5-6 seconds, but I think that's probably because the PCM has been seeing the generator not working properly for so long. It's probably going to want to see the generator working properly for a while before it goes back to commanding it normally. So let's try clearing our codes and make sure they all go away and don't come back. I'll go ahead and click yes. We'll cycle the ignition off and back on. The codes didn't come back, but since they're for a generator issue, we will probably have to start the vehicle and run it for a few minutes just to make sure they don't come back. But at this point, I'm going to go ahead and call this one a win. I'm going to go ahead and run it for a few minutes, retest it, make sure no codes came back, and then we're going to tape up all the harness and put it back in split loom. If you found this helpful or interesting, please click the like button down below. I got a lot more great stuff coming up, so please subscribe. And as always, have a great week.